All right, good afternoon. Welcome to today's Prospect Now webinar entitled How to Find Off-Market Real Estate Properties. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. My name's Warren. I'm the General Manager here at Prospect Now, and what we're going to do is cover a pretty specific topic, and I think it's an important one and a potentially lucrative one as well. We've got a lot of people on today. What we're going to do is go through and talk about why we ought to look for off-market properties, as well as why would an investor of these types of properties, why would they want to sell? What if they decide to sell? Why would they just not list it on the public exchanges? How to find off-market sellers? Why off-market specifically? We'll talk a little bit about us, Prospect Now. Then I'm going to give you a demonstration, a couple of demonstrations actually, about how you can use Prospect Now to find off-market properties and contact their owners. We'll wrap that up with a Q&A. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit the chat button and put those in. A couple of things. We're going to do a couple of polling questions as we go along. And we're also recording this, so if you have to jump off and attend to something, certainly you'll get a link to the recorded version of this sometime tomorrow. So with that, let's go ahead and get going here. So a couple of things. Why should I look for off-market properties, or specifically, why is that good for me? Well, obviously, listings really drive success, right? And so it's a highly competitive market. If you think about, if you can envision in your mind, the pie chart, I mean, how many properties as a percentage in your market are probably on the market at any given time? Is it 3%? Is it 10%? It's probably not any higher than that, right? So it's a very small percentage of the total available market that's actually out on LoopNet or something like that. And then if you think about your competition, right? So you've got 90 to 95% of your competition is fishing in that small little pool, right? And so inventory's low to begin with, right? So everyone's looking, and those listings certainly can be picked over, and you know what I'm talking about there. So, in terms of why I ought to do this, first of all, there's less competition, right? And not all of those properties out there are what I would call off-market, right? A lot of them are pre-market. Sellers have not made the decision to sell yet for a variety of reasons. They're thinking about it. They're going through the process of it. Way to people earlier is better, and certainly getting there before the competition is better as well. Now, why would an investor want to sell? I don't think this is anything earth-shattering for you, but obviously, first and foremost, it's financial reasons. In their portfolios, they either maybe they need cash for some kids going to college, whatever it might be, or they want to buy something else. Something else to consider are things like tax benefits expiring, right? So there are certain things that, as time goes along, you lose the benefit of those things that cause you to purchase or invest to begin with. A lot of times people just get tired, right? And maybe this is the case specifically in multifamily, but certainly in any investment property, you might have management issues. You might have maintenance costs. You might be just flat out tired of owning the property and having to deal with it. Or you want to go and retire. You want to just kind of simplify your life. You don't need that cash flow if you have cash flow and you want to move on. So there's a lot of reasons why an investor might want to sell, and it may not be real evident to them initially. And so your knowledge of the market, your knowledge of commercial real estate and the tax advantages related to that certainly can help people make decisions. We all know that there's a lot of off-market activity that does happen, right? Whether it's off-market or pocket listings or whatever you want to call it. And why does that happen, right? There's a lot of reasons for that, some of which relate to privacy, right? There's privacy concerns, and they want to keep the transaction and the property off of the radar, right? And there's a variety of reasons for that. I mean, I know I've had investor property, and I've done things like widely posted things for sale. And I think the biggest headache for me as an investor and an owner of a property was just weeding through the serious investors from the ones that weren't serious. And you kind of have to, they don't like stand up and tell you initially that, hi, I'm not really interested, I'm just kind of interested. And so you have to kind of do your due diligence, and that takes time and it takes effort to do that. So, kind of dividing the professional investor from the non-professional, right? And a lot of times people just want to deal with professional commercial real estate people, whether they're, selling process for a variety of reasons, whether they're a high-profile person, or the property's high profile, or they don't want the management company to know, or they don't want their tenants to know. There's a lot of reasons why that this is an attractive thing to do. Could be the value of the property as well, and a lot of times, frankly, I know for me, priority, the closing of the actual transaction is priority, and that's kind of their first and biggest recourse is disputing things. And so I like clean transactions. I like the ability to dispose of something when I want to dispose of it, not necessarily at the top price. And there's a price to pay for everything, right? So those are some of the reasons why people would want to do an off-market thing. How to find off-market sellers, right? So there's a lot of ways to kind of get to this, and there are some things that stand out more than others, right? Time of ownership is one. Somebody that's owned a property for 20, 21, 27 years is a prime candidate to do that. Tax advantages are primarily more than likely gone. People that have multiple investments, right? Those are prime people as well. Other things to look for, whether loans are coming due, 5 to 7 year balloon payments. Equity in property, right? The equity in the property, I mean, people want to take a profit, and they may be in a position to do a profit. So that's another way to look for, prime off-market opportunities. Expiring tax benefits, we talked about that. And you can look at things like foreclosure records, so people that are in distress, obviously. So, people that need to sell as opposed to people that want to sell tend to be more reactive than the former. So those are things you can do. I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a poll real fast. So if you guys can take a look at the screen, I want to ask you a couple of questions and we'll move on. Let's do this one. So here's a question you should be able to see just in a moment. And this question asks, how many sources do you use to find owner information, such as the length of ownership, equity, number of properties owned, and the like? So just go ahead. It's a multiple choice. It's like, do you use one source, two sources, three sources, four, or you don't look at all? And I'll just give you guys a few seconds to complete this. And it's interesting to me, and I'll go ahead and show the results of this when I close out the poll. Okay, let me just give you like 5 more seconds, and then I'll close that poll and show you the results. I think this is awesome. I love asking questions, and I love seeing the answers, and I love sharing these things with you because I think it helps me, but it also, I think it would help you as well. Kind of enlightening. So you should be able to see this now. Um, and you can see that the results of this poll, it looks like 50, almost 60, 74% of you use more than one data source for this type of information, right? So that tells me right away that it's somewhat complicated, time-consuming, and onerous to find this stuff. Let me ask you this question. And this will be the last one for just a little bit, and we'll move on. So how do you currently find the owner contact information for the properties you search for? Okay, and you can see the choices up there, and it's multiple choice. If you use more than one, then choose more than one. And I'll give you guys about 30 more seconds to finish this. It's pretty interesting stuff. And I'm going to close this in just a second. Let me just get a few more of you to vote, and then I'll go ahead and share that with you as well. Okay, let me go ahead and close this out, and I'm going to share this. And this is enlightening as well. So again, the question, how do you currently find owner contact information? 85% of you said public record, and 65% of you said internet search. So, you know, those are obvious ways to do it. They're somewhat onerous and, again, time-consuming, and they tend to be relatively low cost, right? Although it takes time, and to me, time is money, and there's a certain value to being able to get everything in one place at one time and give you the ability to kind of get to your money-producing activities on a more quickly basis. Let me go ahead and hide this. I'm going to continue on here. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. So again, you know, how to find these types of owners, you know, we've talked about right here. So let me talk to you about ProspectNow real quickly. We're going to do a demo, and I'm going to show you how you can use ProspectNow very quickly to find these types of owners. Founded in 2008, we're here in the Silicon Valley. We are experiencing tremendous growth right now. Include Dennis DeAndre, one of the founders of LoopNet. And we have over 3,000 paid users today, and that number is going up every day. So just a tremendous story here that Steve Wayne has founded and put together out of his experience of being a commercial investment broker. Oops, let me go here. The ProspectNow Advantage really is, think of it this way. It's a single source for property detail, owner names, mailing addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses for the owners of properties. You can get tenant information and search for buildings and owners by the tenants themselves. It includes an intelligent and intuitive search by building an owner demographic, right? And that's the key, and that's what we're going to hone in on today. It allows you to rapidly target likely sellers and buyers, and it allows you to be very efficient in your prospecting duties by integrating productivity tools like a dialer, direct mail tools, and a CRM or database. For those of you who are what I'm talking about, it makes your prospecting time more efficient, creates time to prospect. There's many of you that don't even prospect because it takes so much time. It allows you to get into more conversations, which lead to leads, which lead to meetings, which lead to listings, which obviously at the end of the day leads to sales and commissionable events for you. Prospecting without ProspectNow, as we talked about, is an owner's prospect, whether you need property addresses to get the owner information, to get behind those LLCs and companies that own the properties, to get the partner names and phone numbers, to try to integrate onto the do not call list. You have to go to places like the courts, right? The title companies, drive-by properties. And then how do you get the loan information and the NOD recordings, foreclosure information, and the property details, right? You got to go to tax assessors. You got to look at the sales history, and you have to go to court filings a lot of times to get this information. So, when I asked the question about, how many sources do you use to get to this type of information, it wasn't surprising to see you use 2, 3, 4, or even more sources to get this type of information, right? And then it's still a very onerous process to do, right? And so again, just kind of, what's my address? What's the ownership? Who's the person behind the ownership? How do I get the phone number? Creating a record in some sort of CRM, or if you don't have that, into Outlook or an Excel spreadsheet, and then doing that enough times to give your database legitimacy so that you can target out of your database, right, and keep it alive. It's a very difficult and, again, onerous process. And all we do here at ProspectNow is we do all of that for you, right? You still have to pick up the phone. You still have to call. You still have to create something compelling to talk about, to get into a conversation. You have to create a direct mail piece or whatever that is to get the attention, to get the mind share and the time share that you need to get your listings. But what we do for you is allow you to eliminate the research process nearly entirely, allow you to target precisely, quickly, and accurately to get the true owner contact information. Their contact information, including phone numbers and mailing addresses and email addresses, and the ability to search not only for specific properties, for classes of properties by their property information and demographic, but also by sale information, right? By when they bought and sold and what the LTV is and things of that nature, and then be able to allow you to, right from the program, contact the property owner and create real-time tools like postcards and letters and things of that nature. I'm going to go ahead and do a demo here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and kind of escape out of this real quickly and get to ProspectNow, which you can see here. So let's do a search real quickly. So one of the things we talked about is the things that you can look for that will help you identify an off-market property, right? Anybody can go to LoopNet or any of the listing services and look at properties that have been publicly listed. But let's suppose for the moment that you want to look for, maybe multifamily property owners or something like that. This is ProspectNow. You can do things like a property search. You can look for tenants and find properties by their tenants, right? We have an integrated contact manager, which allows you to build a database and work from that. That makes you much more efficient. We even do a thing called a guided search that really helps you hone in on exactly what you're looking for, and that's what I'm going to do now, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a list of properties by clicking on that button there and hitting next, okay? And remember, if you have questions, go ahead and ask those in the chat, and we're going to do a Q&A at the end as well, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and let's do LA County, go next there. And now what it allows you to do is it allows you to search in a variety of ways. You can narrow your focus from a geographic perspective by cities. You can do it by zip code. You can do a radius around address, which is pretty handy. You can even search an area on a map if you want, okay? I'm just going to do cities, and I'm going to choose all cities here, just make it easy. And I think what I want to do maybe is look for multifamily. So you can see now you can choose your property types. There's all kinds of commercial properties types. You can choose as many as you want. There's industrial properties. We even have residential single-family residence here now. So any of you that are kind of hybrid brokers that do both, you can do both here. I'm going to choose multifamily and go there. And we have some shortcuts built in that allows, right, you can find potential buyers, potential borrowers, and you can even do some insurance stuff as well. I'm going to look for sellers because we're looking for off-market properties to list. And now you can see here it takes me to some filters that I can continue with, right? So I want to find out-of-state owners, and I want to find owners with multiple properties, right? So I want to look kind of for professional investors, right? So I'm going to look for those. And I can look for owners with loans coming due, for example, okay? And what I can also do, notice here I've got 81 results that match that criteria. And all I've been doing is clicking and basically answering questions. Now, if I wanted to, I can go in here and say, I want to find properties that are 50 to 5 units. Okay, let's try that and see what happens. And now you can see I've got 31 results, which is a pretty tight window. So you go from like 500,000 properties in this particular county in the multifamily class, and in just a few seconds, I've got it narrowed down to out-of-state owners of multiple multifamily properties that are between 5 and 50 units, right? With loans coming due. And what I meant by that is, you know, oftentimes there's a 5 or 7 year note or a balloon. So we kind of looked 4 years back and looked within a window of time that would lead you to believe that they need to make some decisions in the next year or so, right? So now as this begins to load, you can see your results. And again, 31 results matching that criteria, okay? And you can see the results displayed on a map here, as well as in a list view here, okay? All of this information down here is configurable, so you can see it the way you want to see it, and you can kind of scroll down through these kind of any way you want, right? You can pick one of these if you want, and we'll show you what you can see. So here, as I've chosen this one, app and zooms in, and you can see the property detail. This one's in North Hollywood, where my dad and I actually own an apartment on Whitsett. And you can see the square footage and all of the property demographics, which you can be searching for, right? 9 units. You can see the debt that's on the property, the price of the property. You can see when it was purchased and what the price was. You can see the loan date and other loan information, right? You can even see who the seller was. More importantly, on the owner tab, you can see the owner of the property and their tax mailing address. Obviously, that's very important for them to get their tax bill so they can pay their property tax, right? There's a telephone number that's local to Chicago, as you can see, and you simply can go in here, pick up the phone, and call, okay? So this you can see, instead of going to the county and looking for these properties one at a time, you're able to hone in and get a set of properties that matches a defined set of criteria. It allows you to define the needle that's in the haystack, you know, if you want to look at it that way. Let's look at some other ones here. Here's somebody that owns 4 properties, right? Let's take a look at that one. Grace Investments, LLC. So this property is an apartment. It's a 5-unit apartment in Inglewood, California, right? And you can see the owner information here. Again, Grace Investments, LLC, not a person, but you can see the tax address in Ashland, Oregon. And one of the things that we do for you here at ProspectNow is we dig behind that company, that entity, and we get you the managing general partner right here, okay? A couple things you can do. You can click directly through on the owner on the title, and you can see, for example, kind of a detailed information here. And remember I told you they own 4 properties. That was one of the definitions of the criteria. Is here's the one that we found and are looking at. You can also view their other properties simply by clicking through here. Okay? So you can look at all 4 properties. I'm going to go back to the search results, right? And let's see if we can get a phone number for this. Sometimes you can. Most of the time you can. Sometimes you can't. Just forewarning you. Okay, so what this did was it found a couple of things for us, right? Phone number at the owner address, but also found the name of a general partner that's listed under the LLC, and there's the phone number. What's kind of cool here is you can click on this in ProspectNow, and it will place the call for you, right? You can have that phone call and conversation. You can hang up, and you can save this to your contact manager, which is here in ProspectNow. You can even save this to your Salesforce .com CRM if you have that. You can take a note, save it, create a follow-up action, and you can log the call. And that now creates the record in your contact manager, whether it be ours or Salesforce, enters the note, schedules the to-do. I want to call back. It's in progress. I want to give it a date. Let's call it Friday, and I'll save that. So what have we done here real quickly? Oh, by the way, then I can place the next call, right? So you can see right away that I was able to locate 31 matching properties with their owners to the criteria that we want, able to find a name behind an LLC, find a phone number, make the call, complete the call, disposition the call, copy that record to a contact manager, whether that be ProspectNow's or yours, put a note, create a task, and move on, all without leaving ProspectNow, all in a very efficient and effective manner. Okay? Let me show you another search as well. Let's go back to the guided search. And this one, I think, is pretty effective too. I want to build a list of properties like we did before. Let's leave it in Los Angeles County. And this time, I want to do, let's do cities. I'm just thinking out loud here. All cities. Let's do commercial. Let's just do all commercial instead of multifamily this time. And again, I want to find potential sellers. And now we come to the filter again. And again, I think this time I want to find out-of-state owners with multiple properties. And I think I want to restrict it for 2 to 5 properties just to kind of keep our results down. You can see there's a lot of those. And I want to do a loan amount of up to, let's call it $1 million. And then an assessed value, let's call it $2 million to $3 million. So what does that do for me? Right? So what does that do for me? That tells me that I'm looking for commercial properties with out-of-state owners that own between 2 and 5 properties that have some equity, right? So they have a max loan amount of $1 million with an assessed value of between $2 and $3 million. So they have between $1 million and $2 million of equity in the property. They might want to take the position of dispositioning their product to take some profits, for example, or reinvest it, or 1031 exchange it, whatever they want to do, right? So you can see very quickly how you can do something what I would consider to be fairly complicated. In fact, I'm not quite sure how you would even do that on your own with public record and the internet, right? Something you really couldn't do very easily, and you certainly couldn't do it cheaply and very quickly. So there you go. That took about 1 minute and 20 seconds from the inception of that search to your results. And now you have 22 results that, again, are commercial properties with out-of-state owners between 2 and 5 properties with $1 million to $2 million in equity in their property, right? You already there, without doing any other research, you have something to talk about with these people, right? I'm just going to pick one of these down here. And here is what looks like to be a retail property in Hermosa Beach. And you can see when it was built, the size of it, the price they paid. They have a $316,000 loan amount with an assessed value of $2.2 million. Okay? Go to the owner. And it is, again, some sort of entity, Street Retail West 4. And we've dug behind that, and we're able to get the information. There's the company right there, Street Retail West 4, with Donald C. Wood as the principal, right? You can click on this right here. And there is the name. There was a phone number up here. I forgot to show you that. And you can even do something like this, potentially get an email. Now, in this case, we didn't find one, which happens. But nonetheless, you were able to target very quickly, get a name, a phone number, and all of the ownership information on this. And again, not quite sure how you would have done that using public records and the internet, but you can do that very quickly here in ProspectNow. Okay? I'm going to show you one more search, and then we're going to get going. Let's go back to the guided search again. And this time I want to do, I think another one I think would be pretty awesome would be time of ownership. So somebody that owns property for a length of time. So let's do, you know what, let's do this one. I'm going to do search an area on a map just to show you that functionality. It's pretty cool. So instead of designating a city or a zip code or an address, I can actually go on the map here and draw on the map an area I want to search in. So again, my dad and I own a property right over here, so I like showing this area off. So I can move the map, I can zoom in and out. Now I can grab this little polygon tool right here, right? And now I can draw a shape. And so let's say I want to do the north and south side of Ventura Boulevard. I can literally click here, take it to the 101, drop it down into Studio City, and come up this way and complete the polygon search there. It's going to look in that polygon for properties that match my criteria. So now that I have the shape that I want, I'm going to do commercial. There's a lot of mixed retail, commercial. There's all kinds of stuff in that area, which I think is cool to show you. I'm going to look for potential sellers. We've done this again. And once again, we come up with a lot of results. So let's suppose I want to find people that have owned this property for quite a while, maybe 15 years, something like that. So I can go to the sales date here, right? Choose this, and let's say I want to choose 2000, like 15 years ago. So that means they bought this property 15 years ago or longer. That's what that says. And I can hit next, right? And oh, by the way, I can save this search by naming it. So you don't have to redo this again. You can literally look for your search and pull it up. I'm going to skip that for now and go to next. And then you'll be able to see the results here. All right? Coming shortly. Okay, here we go. 27 results for commercial buildings whose owners bought these at least 15 years ago. Okay? There's 27 of them here. And there you go, right? You can take a look at this. Here's a retail, built in 2003, purchased in 2000, so they must have built the property afterwards. And you can see the name and you can get a phone number, right? Same thing here. Sherman Oaks Properties. They own 4 properties. Again, a retail with a pretty large footprint, 1954, bought in 2000, took another loan out in 2007, right? This person might be wanting to sell now. There's pretty good appreciation there. It is an LLC. We were able to get behind that, and there's the managing partner. See if we can get a phone number. And there he is, Joseph Rabinowitz, 818-993-4801. Okay? Click there, call, do what we did before. Okay? I could go all day doing this kind of stuff. So let's go back to here, and I want to ask a couple more questions of you. Right? And I want to share this with you first and foremost. So there's a gentleman that works with ProspectNow. That's a customer. His name's Ken Hoff. And the reason I show this to you is that he closed a $275 million deal with ProspectNow. So I point that out because this was a non-listed property that he used ProspectNow to find. Now, your results may vary, of course, and this is pretty much an extreme case, right? But it shows you, as he built his practice up, he really used the power of ProspectNow to find deals that otherwise he wouldn't be able to find. So he looked for 50-unit apartments with ProspectNow, and he uncovered this particular opportunity and closed it. And you can see what he does, right? It was invaluable, what he called invaluable to building his business, right? This guy's a former broadcaster. So I'm not saying that you can subscribe today and find a $275 million transaction, but certainly the ability exists for you to be able to find deals that nobody else can right now, right? Let me ask you guys a real quick polling question. So let me ask you this. Yeah, let's ask this one. Productivity tools. Take a look at your screen. And if you could take just a moment to answer this, it would be really helpful. So, what productivity tools do you currently use? Who's using email marketing programs? Who's using direct marketing programs? In other words, direct mail? Who's using dialer-specific software to automate your calling process, right? And then the other one is outsourced telemarketing, which is a growing field. And I'll give you guys about 35 seconds to answer this, and I'll share that with you as well. I've been doing this here a long time. I worked here from 2009 through 2012, left for 3 years and came back. And from 2012 to now, the uptake and use of technology in commercial real estate, frankly, astounded me, right? The proliferation of tools being used is tremendous. That being said, it's still a relatively small share of you that are actually taking advantage of technology to build your business. So what I'm sharing with you right now is just the results of this poll, which I think is interesting. And obviously, many of you are valuing email and direct marketing programs, right? Not many of you are using dialer software, outsourced telemarketing, which either tells me one of two things. You're not calling very much, and if you are, you're just dialing the phone, which is better than nothing. But again, if you can see what we did in the demonstration about being able to take the haystack, rapidly find the needle, and then be able to use that needle and make the phone calls and disposition the calls into a contact manager all in one fell swoop is really powerful, right? And it is the future. It's the way business is being done today, and commercial real estate and, frankly, residential real estate is moving that way as well. Let me ask you another question, and then we're going to wrap this up real quick with a Q&A. Of those of you that use a CRM or some sort of database, which one do you use? Okay. And many people don't realize that ProspectNow has a built-in CRM. That's part of your subscription, right? Not only can you save things you do within ProspectNow into that CRM, but you can upload your current spreadsheet files or whatever else you're using into ProspectNow as well. Okay. We're going to close this out in about 10 seconds, and then we're going to move on. 2 more slides I want to show you, and then we'll open a Q&A. All right, going to close that. And we are going to move on here. So that's the Ken Hoff story. Let me talk about ROI, return on investment, okay? Investment is not only time, it's money, right? A ProspectNow subscription, just so you know, on a month-to-month, cancel at any time, one county. If you paid for it for a year, that's your price, $961, right? You have the ability to look up 6,000 phone numbers during that year or with that particular subscription. And we've been doing research over the years with our customers and put together this return on investment analysis. And what we found so far is that it takes 56 calls to get a commercial real estate lead, okay? So out of that 6,000, you're going to get 107 leads. You follow that? The other thing that we've discovered is that it takes 20 leads to get a listing. It's a classic funnel analogy here. So of those, you're going to get 5 listings. And these numbers vary, but this is the average that we've seen so far, right? Listing to sale close ratio is 80%. So you're going to close 4 out of those 5 with an average net commission percentage of 2% on an average deal size of $700K. Again, your market may vary, your class of building may vary, with a potential net commissions of $56,000. Okay, so $56,000 on a $961 investment is 56 to 1. To me, that's unheard of. I've sold software all over the Silicon Valley for the last 25 years, and I've never seen an ROI like that. Now, again, it's an example, and results may vary. But if someone came to me and said, hey, listen, on the street, said, if you give me a dollar bill, I'm going to give you 56. I'm going to do that every day, right? I'm going to do it twice on Sundays if they let me. So the point is that not so much what it costs ProspectNow and what it's going to get you, but this is illustrative of the effect of prospecting itself, right? Taking the time to be able to do this, right? Now, I would challenge those of you that are using different sources to get this information, whether it's free or not. It's not really free, right? I think the next thing we'd like to do is, how long does it take to you to get that phone number, to get that one phone number, right? Using traditional methodology versus ProspectNow, okay? So just in summary, before you go to the Q&A, off-market and pre-market properties can be very lucrative, right? Ken Hoff with notwithstanding. There's a great ROI in doing it, regardless if you use ProspectNow or not. However, if you do,